We are live streaming and recording. I'm not sure if we're waiting for other members to join or if we're going to go ahead and begin. Mary, you're on mute.
I do know Fran Lally, at least he said to me this afternoon, he won't be at this meeting.
That's correct.
Want to give Eric another minute or two?
Sure.
There he is.
Dinesh, you're always working late in your office there. It's really very impressive.
It's a picture.
I know it is.
Picture, but I'm here.
Me too.
All right. Allison, are we ready?
Yes, we're all set.
Okay, and I know that Fran's not going to be here tonight, so. All right, so good evening. Tonight is January 14th. This is a regular meeting of our Brookfield Zoning Commission for 7 o'clock. Do I have a motion for the previous minutes?
Make a motion to approve the previous minutes as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're not going to do the land use enforcement because he is not here. So we're going to skip that. Do I have a motion to skip that and go to 5?
I move that we skip the zoning enforcement officer's report.
Second.
And move to number 5, public hearings?
And move to number 5, public hearings.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so we got to open up the public hearing for 5A, 731 Federal Road, Z-20-115. So this is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Zoning Commission. At this point in our agenda, we have a scheduled public hearing concerning the application of 731 Federal Road LLC, represented by Artel Engineering, application Z-20-115 for design review for a 6,000 square foot professional medical office and retail building with associated driveways, sidewalks, grading, utilities, and landscaping. Tonight on the zoning,
I think you got the wrong one.
do I? I thought that was
Yeah.
The grocery store, 731.
730.
I can explain that one, Eric, if you want me to. This is
Go
Paul
ahead.
Scalzo, 32 Torrey Lane. It's 730 Federal Road LLC. We were before you a month ago. We had the wrong Zoom information in our public notices. They got a call from one of the neighbors saying they couldn't get on. Fran called me. He dealt with the town attorney, Attorney Tom Beecher. He said that we had to recast our public hearing. So this evening I'm before you with 730 Federal Road asking us to have another public hearing so we can send out proper notices at your next meeting.
What? Yeah, I get that, but I was reading 731 Federal Road application Z-20-115, which is our 5A.
All right, that's, Tony can explain that one. That's another.
Mr.
Right, so
Chairman,
the one that you were talking about, Paul, is 6A, old, which we'll get to.
Okay, sorry, I don't have the agenda, and it's 730 Federal Road, not 731. So you had 730's description, but you had the address 731.
We have both.
731,
We have both.
we have
Yeah.
both. Is 731 is the grocery store, correct?
Yes.
yes.
All right, Kurt, did you say I was reading the wrong one?
You were reading like you said, you had the right address, wrong description. You were describing a medical building. It's actually the grocery store.
Ah, what's funny is that's what's written there.
Yep.
That is
That's
what's
what it
written there.
says. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, what? You mean the public? You mean the
Yeah.
public notice is wrong for 731?
yeah, that's what it is. All right, so I'm gonna retry this then. This is a, yeah, even on our legal notice, it says 731, design review special permit for 2 mixed-use buildings with associated access and parking.
That's correct for 731.
At 7:31.
Yes.
That is correct for 7:31.
It's just not correct in our introduction to public hearing.
All right. So I'm gonna makeshift this. All right, so let's start this over. This is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Zoning Commission. At this point in our agenda, we have scheduled a public hearing concerning the application of 731 Federal LLC, represented by Artel Engineering Application Z-20-115 for special permit, design review, construction of 2 mixed-use buildings with associated access and parking. First, let me introduce the members of the commission present here this evening. Myself, Eric Cook, the chair, Francis Block. We have Kurt Timmerman and Mary Capiello and Leslie Ruggiero. Am I missing anybody? Allison, that you see signed on? Okay. Do I need to, I think we have enough regular members, right, Mary? I don't need to elevate anyone.
We're missing Tony and Chris.
All right, so Kurt, by defunct, there's nobody I need to elevate. So Kurt is a voting member tonight. We will be opening up this public hearing by calling upon the commission secretary to read the legal notice of this hearing. The legal notice was published on the Town of Brookfield website on December 14, 2020. The following public hearing will take place remotely via Zoom conferencing. Please view the agenda for dial instructions. To reach the land use office for any questions or concerns, please call 203-775-7316. Legal notice, the Zoning Commission of Brookfield, Connecticut will hold a public hearing remotely via Zoom, meeting ID number 128-947-054 on Thursday, January 14, 2024. 731 Federal Road, application Z-20-115, design review special permit for 2 mixed-use buildings with associated access and parking. This application was formally received by the commission on December 10, 2020. Public hearing is only one aspect of the approval process and is for the purposes of accepting factual information and data bearing on this application to allow expression of opinion by interested parties. Subsequent to this hearing, the commission has 65 days in which to render a decision on this proposal. The final decision may be formed approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or denied. After reading into record the correspondence received by the commission relative to this application, we'll ask the applicant to present the application in detail. Presentation will be limited to 45 minutes. Chair will then entertain questions or clarification concerning the applicant's presentation. We will hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed. Comments must be limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public will have one opportunity to speak during the segment of the hearing. May also submit their questions and concerns in writing during the public hearing. During the segment, the commissioners may ask additional questions. The bylaws commission allow only for the presentation of similar positions in succession and preclude the intermixture of comments, pro or con. All questions and comments must be directed to the chair. As you are recognized, please state your name and address so your comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the commission is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application. In view of the time constraints placed upon us, we ask your indulgence in not reiterating comments previously presented. After public comments are received, the applicant will have an opportunity to comment and the time will be limited to 10 minutes. Mary, can you read the correspondence?
Sure thing. Well, we have an old one from September 16th, 2020 to Town of Brookfield Zoning Board of Appeals, Zoning Commission and Inland Wetlands Commissions for 731 Federal Road, Brookfield, Connecticut. To whom it may concern, I authorize Michelle McCauley and Danius Verbicus of Artel Engineering Group LLC to act as my agent in respects to all applications and meetings with regards to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Zoning Commission, and Inland Wetlands Commission relating to 731 Federal Road LLZ project located at 731 Federal Road, Town of Brookfield, Connecticut. Sincerely, Tony Lucera, 731 Federal Road LLC, Managing Member. And then we have a compilation of everything that's gone through town for 731 Federal Road, that's Z-20-115, the VPC comments. Mike Connors just says approved. Alice Dew, approved by Wetlands on November 9th, 2020. That's W-20-26. Christy McPadden, applicant will need to come before the WPCA for a permit to connect, but the property is assessed and paying a plant charge, so it will be a matter of working out the details. We'll need grease trap calculations for 3-story building, pump station details, reasoning for 2 pump stations versus 1, and reasoning for not tying into existing lateral. There will be inspection hours, engineering review fees, and possible legal fees, all to be determined at WPCA meeting once application is submitted. Signed, Chrissy McPadden. James Purcell says for 731 Federal Road, proposed 2-building project. The location of the proposed project presents 2 issues related to traffic. The first is the main intersection of Federal Road opposite Laurel Hill Road and whether or not it should be controlled by a traffic control signal. The second issue concerns the 2 driveway crossings of the multi-use trail. The traffic study indicates that the proposed project will meet the warrants for a full function traffic signal, and we agree. The signal should include pedestrian phasing as appropriate by current Con DOT traffic signal design specifications. The 2 full-service access driveways cross the existing Still River Greenway multi-use trail, and these trail crossings are of concern due to the high volume of pedestrian traffic at times and the significant use by younger children on bicycles and other wheeled non-motorized conveyances. Consideration should be given to providing appropriate signage warning both pedestrians using the trail and motorists before they cross the trail. At the North Access Drive, exiting vehicles will have a stop bar/sign prior to the trail crossing and should yield to the pedestrian traffic on the trail. Vehicles entering, however, will not have any controls and are therefore of most concern. Consideration should be given to the installation of signage that will warn pedestrians of the crossing, or conversely, motorists to yield to pedestrians in the crossing. I defer to the guidance of Connecticut DOT on those matters. These issues should be addressed by the developer as the project moves forward. That's all he said. And then Ralph Tedesco just said NA. And that's everything I have on this. Did anybody have anything else?
Okay, is the applicant ready to proceed?
Anthony Lucera, the applicant. I would like to have our title do an overview of the project as proposed.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Verbicus, professional engineer with the firm of Artel Engineering Group right here in Brookfield, Connecticut, here on behalf of the applicant, 731 TPA LLC, for the proposed development of 731 Federal Road. Was wondering if perhaps I could share a screen with you and take you through the plans, or I don't know if you've all got plans in front of you to look at.
Dionysus, I made you a co-host so you can share your screen.
Terrific. And I'm going to do just that. I'm going to start with the survey map just to give you an overview. And once I've done that, okay. Here we go. Okay, thank you for your patience. So 731 LLC is a 7.3 acre parcel located on the east side of Federal Road, with primarily its southerly boundary rather close to and across the street from the Laurel Hill Road intersection, which is located to the right side of the drawing where my pointer is pointing. And the northern end of the property is located generally at the vicinity of where Old Federal Road intersects with Federal Road itself. The property is long and linear, with topography that rolls generally from the west down to the east. The eastern property line is basically coincident with the Still River, which flows from south to north upwards towards New Milford. Topography is rather moderate and gentle in some spots, and then steeper at the north end. There are portions of wetlands on the property that have made the development inform how it currently is aligned. And there's also floodway and floodplain associated with the property as well. And we've taken all of that into account into our design. And at this point, I think I'll roll right into the site plan portion of the set of drawings. Can everyone see that okay?
It's not the site plan. It's still the, there we go.
Okay, those electrons take time. So I'll shrink the drawing a little bit so I can bring the whole thing into view on the screen. And again, to orient yourselves, north is to your left on the drawing. And what we have proposed is the development of the parcel. And you'll note that directly across the street from Laurel Hill Road will be the primary entrance into the site, going from west to east. And we'll be descending down once we've crossed over the access walkway for the Still River Greenway. Once we've crossed that, we drop down into our site via a nice gentle driveway descending down into the site. Off to the right of that driveway, or to the south, is a proposed roughly 2,000 square foot building that is slated now to be perhaps a coffee shop with a drive-through, or some other type of food service with a drive-through window associated with it. To the north of the main driveway, as you enter in, is a field of parking located adjacent to that driveway, and then also several fields of parking running in a south to north fashion along the eastern side of the proposed building. This proposed building, which is this darker gray shaded area on the plan, is a 22,000 square foot footprint building with a grocery store proposed at the southern end of the building, and then room for an additional 3 retail tenants on that bottom level of the building. Also associated with this building will be 2 floors of residential units for a total of 40 residential units on this particular site. Now, as you go on the driveway further to the north, you can travel past some additional fields of parking. And as you get to the northern end of the site, we've got another driveway that's proposed to pop out across from Old Federal Road. So we're teeing up our intersections, and you'll note that there are 16 parking spaces located remotely at the far north end of the site, which are primarily in place as requested by the town to be utilized in association with the walkway along Federal Road and crossing into the Still River and towards Town Hall and throughout the town. It's a nice amenity, and to have additional parking for it is a plus. All the times that we've been out to the site, there have been plenty of pedestrians walking the site and taking advantage of the beautiful days and the landscaping and Still River associated with this area. So the development requires 149 parking spaces, and we have 163 parking spaces proposed. So again, we've got an excess of parking, which will be utilized primarily by the folks that would be using the walking trail. But there's adequate parking throughout the site for the intended uses on the site. I guess to keep things clear, I will keep us on this sheet as the grading and utility plan gets a little bit more busy. But again, basically our grading on the site is such that similar to existing conditions, the property will be developed in a fashion in which the grades drop down from west to east to a low area along the driveway that wraps around the site. And then we've got several low spots along this driveway, which lend themselves for stormwater discharge into areas designated and making use of existing discharge points and or areas of the site that need reinforcement due to prior discharges on the site. So we worked closely with the Wetlands Commission to reinforce these outlet points, stabilize the grounds, and create a site that's going to be more stable and with many less invasive species that currently exist on the site. But again, those are wetland issues. We will be utilizing municipal water and sewer services on this site. We just need to get our final sign-offs from WPCA, as was noted in the letters on file. And stormwater management consists again of allowing the state runoff to continue to flow through our site. The state has several discharge points from Federal Road discharging onto the site and through the site. So we'll continue those through the site in these two northerly portions, and then a rather large discharge located at the southerly end of the site. In addition to this stormwater systems, we do have stormwater management systems and infiltration systems proposed for our roof leaders from the proposed 22,000 square foot building, as well as from the 2,000 square foot building as well on the site. And just so you can take a peek at it, I'm going to scroll down a couple of pages so you can see generally where those utilities are located. And oops, sorry. So here's a little bit enlarged version of where these utilities are located. And you'll note again to the east side of the proposed 2,000 square foot building, we do have an infiltration system located where the highlighter is going across the screen. And again, to the east of the larger building, we have a somewhat larger infiltration system for the roof drains from the building itself. We, in addition to our site plan, we have a lighting plan that was prepared by our lighting consultant, and the lighting will all be dark sky compliant. And I can share that with you as well, though I'm not too well versed in all the lighting contours, but they assured us that it is fully compliant with town regulations. And also associated with our plan set, we have an abundant landscape plan that was prepared by Abigail Adams of A2 Land Consulting Services. Primarily the landscaping focuses on rather an abundant amount of landscaping along the property frontage, and equally pretty substantial plantings acting as buffers to the Still River and supplements to the existing landscaping that's going to occur, or the grading that's going to occur on the periphery of the site itself. We've got a couple of building elevations that we can share with you as well, as were prepared by 72 architects in Danbury. And I'll give you a couple of renderings to look at right now. The first rendering would be a view from the, if you're standing at Laurel Hill Road, looking toward the north and east. So this would be the front corner of the building. Access to the grocery store would be located generally in this location. And then you'll note that the building has been designed to mimic a storefront look from the Federal Road side, although all access to the retail facilities will be from the east side, or from the Still River side of the development. So what the architect tried to do was create a facade that is pleasing to the eye and that looks as any other development would look, with storefronts along the road front itself. I'll go to the next elevation for you to take a peek at. And now this elevation of the building is looking to the south from the north. And basically, if you picture yourself standing, let's say at the Old Federal Road intersection, you'll note a primary entrance to the residential portion of the building. And once you enter into these doors, you're able to go upstairs or into an elevator, which will bring you to the upper levels, to the residences that are proposed on the building. And once again, the lower level has been designed to mimic that of a retail use. And again, storefront or attention to details and finishes on all sides of the building, so that we're not looking at a back of a building from any one direction on the property, which is a difficult thing to do. And I'm glad we've got a great architect putting stuff together for us. And at this point, I think I'll step off and I don't know if I can answer questions now, or perhaps you want to hold questions till the end of the presentation. I know that we've got Mr. Michael Galante, who can speak to traffic elements associated with the development. And at this point, I'll yield.
I do have one question
speaker.
for you. Is there assigned parking for the residents that are going to be living there?
We do not have it specified on the site, but I suppose that would be something that we could certainly consider.
Yeah, Paul Scalzo, 32 Torrey Lane, and part of 731 Federal Road LLC. Yeah, the property management company will have assigned parking for the residents.
Do you know where they're going to probably locate that parking?
Well, I don't know where the management company is going to do it, but obviously you got to allow retail traffic. If you'd like, we, can come back with a plan, but there will be assigned parking.
Okay. All right, you can continue on with the traffic.
Okay, thank you. Mike Galante, Hardesty in Hanover, located in Fairfield. And I'd just like to take a few minutes to summarize and talk about the traffic study we prepared for this application before the town, and it'll also be before the Connecticut DOT for their review and approval. We conducted actual traffic counts at 5 intersections along Federal Road, everything from the Route 7 interchange to the south, the two driveways that are opposite the town roads along the side frontage, and the Route 25 Singles intersection to the north. Traffic counts were conducted pre-pandemic, so we're not dealing with volumes that are not typical. We looked at the weekday morning, weekday afternoon, and Saturday midday peak hours. We matched that traffic data to Connecticut DOT volumes to make sure that we were certainly in the right range as far as volumes, and they are. We determined turning movements, peak hours, and activity, any pedestrian activity was included. We projected that traffic to a future design year. We added 1% per year for, I think, 3 years. We added traffic for at least 4 other developments that are essentially coming online in the area along Federal Road and other nearby roads. We projected that traffic to what we would call a no-build condition. And then we estimated our site traffic for each of the components within this development. And the beauty of this type of mixed-use development is the traffic patterns for site traffic are different, which means it mitigates really the traffic in and out of the driveways, because the residential, for example, may be exiting in the morning, the retail traffic may be coming in the afternoon. It tends to spread out the traffic and reduce those potential impacts. It will add traffic to the roads. It will generate 200 to 300 new trips to Federal Road. The traffic spread out on the roadway system. A lot of it does go to the Route 7 interchange to the south. And we analyze what we call a build condition, determine potential impacts and need for any mitigation. The results of the analyses show that these roads and intersections can accommodate this traffic. Keep in mind the volumes on Federal Road have dropped significantly since Route 7 was extended several years ago. So we bring the traffic up a little bit, but nothing like it was before. The analysis shows, and we conducted traffic signal warrant analyses at I'll call it our main driveway opposite Laurel Hill Road. It does meet the warrants based on what CONDOT follows. And so we do recommend a traffic signal at that location. And it of course would include pedestrian signals as far as the package, as far as the operations. The comment before about pedestrians on the trail and the driveways crossing that, we would of course have the appropriate signing and pavement markings for that in both directions. The stop bars would probably be before you reach Federal Road. And of course, drivers do need to yield to pedestrians and crosswalks. So that would be in place, and we would put supplemental signing in to accommodate that. But the traffic study shows that we can accommodate this traffic on area roads for all the different peak hours. And we do recommend the traffic signal at the southerly driveway, which is our main driveway. And I'll leave it at that. I can answer questions now or later.
Kurt Timmerman here. You mentioned about signage and everything for pedestrian safety and all. Is there any sort of other traffic calming devices you would recommend aside from just signage to protect pedestrians, like speed bumps or something like that?
Michael, that question was addressed to you.
I just lost power. Just give me a minute to come back on and I'll come back to answering. I can't see anyone, but if you could repeat the question, I can certainly answer it.
Sure. Kurt Timmerman here. You have signage for pedestrian safety. Is there any other traffic calming devices that you could think of, physical or something that you could add to it in order to protect pedestrians there?
Yeah, what we've done in the past, and we worked certainly with Dynas and the project team, and even Connecticut DOT in the town. Sometimes you put a different type of pavement treatment for the crosswalk area, which in this case is the trail, something that's very visible, different pavement color, type, texture, and that tends to be a very good traffic calming measure. Keep in mind the trail is not that far away from the road itself, so we're not going to recommend speed humps, for example. That along with signing, I think would be appropriate. It's very visible, it's very open. Landscaping will not be near the trailway at the crosswalks, so we would take that all into account when we do it.
Can I add to the comment, Kurt?
Sure.
So as part of what they're doing, both streetscape phases 3 and 5 are associated and impact and interface with this project. And our plan, if this project doesn't go forward, is to add RRFB crossings, just like we have in front of Pancho and Gringo's and the Craft Center, which are flashing beacons and our decorative crosswalk. It's really important for this project and the town to work together so that when our projects phases 3 and 5 go in, and this project goes forward, with or without the crosswalks or the lighting and the traffic signals that they're requesting, that we do this together. We are really at a crossroads on our town project to coordinate this, and we're seeking encroachment and permits now to move our projects forward. So we definitely will work with the applicant here. They've been working with us wonderfully. And all the signage requirements you request, because it's on a state road, will have to be approved by the DOT.
Okay, thank you.
Does the applicant have anybody else that wants to continue with the application, or is that it?
That is the only staff that we brought to the meeting. We didn't feel it was necessary to bring Abigail Adams concerning the landscaping. And we're ready to take questions from the commission or the public.
Sure, I do have a couple more questions, if that's all right, Eric.
Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
Do you have an idea of colors and materials for the building itself?
We have not gotten to that level with it, but we can have Marwan, who is our architect, and is very familiar with the theme that is being used along the redevelopment of that portion of Federal Road. And we can work with Greg, who is the project manager, to coordinate colors and textures and so on. If you notice on the elevation, we did have, we added brick and we added chimneys. Those chimneys are strictly decorative, they're not functional, but we felt that gave it that downtown, more residential look that you're looking for, along with the retail.
All right, and related to elevation, is this building going to sit slightly lower than the Federal Road, the actual
Yeah.
building?
Yes, it does. It is probably the ground floor of the grocery store is probably 10 feet below Federal Road. However, the distance from the building to Federal Road is in excess of 60 feet. So it's a very gentle slope. It's not as though it's right there in a well.
Right.
It's all graded. There's no retaining walls in that area.
And
In addition, we put sidewalks. You couldn't see it on his plans, but we actually have a sidewalk in front of what's really the rear of the building, again, to make it look more like the entrance to the building retail stores.
all right. And one last question, not as a requirement, but I'm not sure if you're familiar. We've signed up as a town to be in the EV corridor for cars and everything. Was there any thought for the future to put in charge stations for the residents? You know, they're going to be, how many units, 40 units or so? Just a thought towards infrastructure or something?
Yeah, we're currently building 210 units in Newtown, and we've had so far only one request for a charge station. So what we've done on that project is we have parking garages in each of the buildings. So we're putting a charging station in the garage. In this project here, we're going to make provisions for charging stations, not necessarily put the stations in at this time. And when the requests become significant by the tenants primarily, we will then put the stations in. But yes, we're planning for the future of electric cars.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anything else, Kurt? Mary? Leslie? Frank?
No,
Oh, one
Right.
note, Eric, Frank's voting today too, because there's only 5 of us.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I thought I mentioned that everybody's voting tonight. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions or clarification before we hear comments pro or con? Go ahead, Greg. You're muted. Greg, you're muted.
Sorry,
There you go.
I was enjoying my cocktail this evening. So Greg Dembowski, 28 Green Knoll Drive. These questions are on behalf of the town as project manager for the streetscape projects. My first question is regarding timing and sequence. And I ask that question because we are now right in the middle with our getting encroachment permit approval for phases 3 and 5, both of which impact the frontage of this project at their 2 different driveway cuts. So I would like to understand the sequence for timing for this project as it relates to the streetscape projects. That's my first question. Should I ask all of mine now or wait for a response?
I
Let
would say
me,
do one
let me
question,
res-
one response.
yeah, let's respond to each question as you ask them. The timing for the project is we are ready to go forward immediately. We have partnered with the grocery store operator. He will be an owner, he is an owner rather, right now of the LLC that has been formed to build this project. The funding for it is in place. And upon OSTA's approval, we will immediately be applying for our permits to start site work and building work. To that end, I've asked Mike Galanti to proceed with an application to OSTA since we now started this hearing, and that he would be able to say to the people at OSTA in his application that we have commenced our public hearing, and the commission, as well as Greg as the project manager for the town streetscape program, support a traffic signal at the intersection of Laurel Hill. So that, Mike, I don't know if you got to get that application in the last 2 days since we spoke?
No, Dice and I have put the plan together and package. I've started it. It'll probably go in the beginning of the week.
Okay. So
Beginning
that
of next week.
application, Greg, is going to be made immediately.
Great, thank you, because I got a feeling we have no encroachment permits yet, and I feel like we're a little bit of a log jam with the DOT because their commitment to fund our streetscape projects is contingent upon this development and the sequencing. So I think the quicker we can move this forward, the quicker we can get out of our log jam with the DOT as it relates to streetscape. So that's a great plan, and I absolutely support it. And if you need my support with the DOT, please let me know.
We will do that.
Okay, my second question is regarding overhead utility poles. Both projects are going to be moving utility poles to make room for the sidewalk. And do you have a utility pole plan yet on either moving poles or taking any utilities underground?
There's a pole that is in our driveway that has to be moved, I'm going to guess somewhere between 5 and 8 feet. And from that pole, everything going into the project will be underground.
Okay, great, thank you. My next question is regarding elevation in the Still River Greenway, and it's not something specifically of a concern of mine from a town perspective, but as you know, that Still River Greenway project was installed and you know the elevations there. And if you're going to go over that trail, do you have all the approvals you need from the trail people at the DOT to do whatever is going to satisfy their requirements?
We did not want to be presumptuous with the trail people and talk to them prior to an approval. But if the commission wishes to make that a condition of approval, that we will coordinate with them. We obviously have to coordinate with DOT or OSTA, and we will be in touch with everybody we need to be in touch with as quickly as we can go through the chain, or the sequence, I should say, in proper order so we don't get anybody's nose out of joint. Great,
thank you. My fourth question is regarding lighting. As you know, we have a very specific sidewalk lighting plan for the town center district. So my request of the applicant, as to the greatest extent possible, consistent sidewalk lighting design and the spray pattern for the lights and all that. I think the more consistent we are, the better it will look for our downtown. So I just asked the applicant to consider our lighting detail and to the greatest extent possible, make it consistent.
Greg, as you and I have been working together on both this project and the project north of the Four Corners, and yes, we will be using the same light fixtures that you are currently using as light fixtures coming into our project and any fixtures that we need along Federal Road.
Great. Thank you. My last comment, and this is a general comment to the applicant and to the zoning commission. I think our downtown is coming along beautifully. And I will tell you on February 2nd, less than a month from now, based on approval from the Board of Finance at their meeting last night that I was at. They approved Streetscape Phase 4. We are now talking about extending our design all the way to Newberry Village with full support of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. And I think within 3 years, what you've seen is only the beginning of what's going to be happening in our downtown. So I commend this applicant and the project speaking about next for what our downtown is going to be here in the very near future. And those are the end of my comments.
Is there anybody else that has any questions or clarification? All right. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Go ahead, Greg.
I think I've already said what I needed to say. I am absolutely in support of this for many reasons, including the fact that this applicant is working very closely with the town and supports all of the things we're trying to make our downtown become. So I speak in favor of.
All right, thank you, Greg. Is there anybody now who wishes to speak in opposition of this application? Allison, do you see anybody?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so to the applicant, we have closed this public hearing, and depending on the length of tonight's meetings, we might go ahead and come back around to it and talk about it at the end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're now moving on to
Thank
5B,
you.
which is 154 Pocono Road, application Z-20-116. I think that I saw the applicant was online earlier. Yes. Is the applicant online? Danielle, is that you, Danielle Amelia? Okay.
Yes, we are.
All right, before I read all this, I just want to make sure you're here. This is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Zoning Commission. At this point on our agenda, we have scheduled a public hearing concerning the application of Mario de Almeida, application number Z-20-116 for an 800 square foot accessory apartment. Again, the members of the commission who are all voting again tonight is myself, Eric Cook, Francis Block, Kirk Timmerman, Mary Capiello, and Leslie Ruggiero. The legal notice is, again, was published on the Town of Brookfield's website, and it was legal notice. The Zoning Commission of Brookfield, Connecticut will hold a public hearing remotely via Zoom, meeting ID 128-947-054 on Thursday, January 14, 2020 for 154 Pocono Road, application Z-20-116 accessory apartment, and the publication date was December 14, 2020. The application was formally received by the commission on December 10, 2020. Public hearing is only one aspect of the approval process and is for purposes of accepting factual information and data bearing on this application to allow expression of opinion by interested parties. Subsequent to this hearing, the commission has 65 days in which to render a decision on this proposal. The final decision may be informed, approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or denied. After reading into record the correspondence received by the commission relative to this application, we will ask the applicant to present the application in detail. The presentation will be limited to 45 minutes. Chair will then entertain questions and clarification concerning the applicant's presentation. We'll hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed. Comments must be limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public will have one opportunity to speak during the segment of the hearing and may also submit their concerns in writing during the public hearing. During this segment, the commissioners may ask additional questions. The bylaws of the commission allow only for the presentation of similar positions in succession and preclude the intermixture of comments pro or con. All questions and comments must be directed through the chair. As you are recognized, please state your name and address so your comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the commission is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application. In view of the time constraints placed upon us, we ask your indulgence to not reiterate comments previously presented. After the public comments are received, the applicant will have the opportunity to comment, and the time will be limited to 10 minutes. Are there any questions? Mary, can you read the correspondence into record, please?
Sure. There really isn't much correspondence per se, just that notice to neighbors went out. Nothing came back on that. And the form saying that it's a family member who this would be for is filled out, but no real correspondence besides that.
The applicant would now like to present their application.
Yes.
Go ahead. Let us know what you want to, let us, Commissioner, know what you want to do here tonight.
Us?
Yes, yeah, this is your application, so you have to let the zoning board commission know what you're asking us to approve or to approve.
Okay.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Daniele Amelia, 154 Pocono Road, Brookfield, Connecticut. We are applying for an accessory apartment as part of our single family house.
How big is it? Tell us where it's located. Just, we need to make the record.
It's about 800 square feet. It was adjusted as per regulations. We have one site map, I think, in record.
And you put on the stairs to the rear?
Yes, we put a deck with the stairs. Sliding door deck, about 120 square feet, right? Our deck.
I reviewed what I've had. I'm not sure if any more of my commissioners have any other questions on the apartment, 800 square feet.
Yeah, this is Kurt Timmerman. I'm trying to understand which part is the accessory apartment. Is it to be on the first floor or on the second floor?
First floor.
And so the drawing you have on the first floor, I see the entry. And does it include this living room, kitchen, dining room, and 3 bedrooms and a bath?
Yes.
And that's, you say 800 square feet?
Yes.
Because that's a whole first floor of the building. The building is 33 foot wide in one section and 44 feet wide on the other. So it's not as, the depth is not 33 all the way, but say it's 30, that's about like 1,200 square feet. So I don't know if the measurements are accurate to keep under that limit.
I think when we did the 800, we did as the living space, not counting the closets and the bathroom, and I think the hallway.
So just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms. That's the 800 square feet. The dining room, kitchen, living room, and 3 bedrooms. Eric, I guess it would have been nice to know what the dimensions of each room we can add.
Each room, yeah. What is our, I'm going into our book to see how we measure the 800 square feet. It is living space, correct?
800 living space.
Now, it says an apartment unit shall contain not less than 480 square feet, nor more than 800 square feet of the building footprint. If I look in our Article 3, number 5, that's 3.16 accessory apartments. So I don't see anywhere in there that says living space. I see it as no less than 480, no more than 800 square feet of the footprint.
Yeah, and I think we had discussed this when we redid the regs because it was so difficult to just say living space. And as to do the calculations was just a footprint was easier to enforce and less likely to be abused if someone says that's not living space and then turns it into it. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, by looking at the calculations, it looks like the footprint of this, of the overall building, if it's the entire first floor, that means it's the entire first floor footprint underneath
Yeah.
our regs.
And 44 by 33 is 1452.
Right.
Now, it looks like it's, some of the house is back, so it's like 30 feet on the left half of the house. So maybe the average is 31 or 32, but still about 1,200, at least 1,200 square feet.
Right, because it bumps out in the front part or the side part of the living room. Living room bumps out. But if we were to do a calculation of the overall footprint, it does appear to be more than 800. So to you as the applicant, do you want us to go ahead and close this public hearing, or would you like to submit a new footprint that would let us know that this is under 800 square feet of your initial footprint?
As we would like to send a new footprint showing exactly the 800 square feet, how it shows.
Okay, so you're asking us to keep this open, then this hearing open?
Correct.
Okay, so we will keep this hearing open for you to resubmit a new floor plan that shows, with the calculations as well on that, the 800 square feet of the overall footprint.
Okay.
All right, our next meeting, I believe, is the 28th.
28th.
28th. So our next meeting is the 28th. So if you can get that in, and we ask if you can at least get it in like 3 or 4 days prior to the 28th, so that we have enough time to look at it before the meeting, that'd be
Okay.
appreciated.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we're just going to leave this open and because the applicant wants it left open until January 28th. We are going to now go to 5C. Although I have a motion to go to 5C.
Well, I'll make a motion to continue 5B Z-20-116 to our next meeting, and then move on to 5C Z-20-119.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so now we're on to C, proposed regulation change, C-20-119. This is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Zoning Commission. At this point in our agenda, we have scheduled a public hearing concerning the application of Brookfield Village LLC, Alan Rothman, application number Z-20-119, for proposed regulation change to Article 5-D.D.T2, special district permitted uses, residential apartment condominium dwelling units. Again, it's the same commissioners that were present earlier, myself, Eric Cook, Francis Kwok, Kurt Timmer, and Mary Yellow, and Leslie Ruggiero, and we are all voting tonight. The public hearing notice, again, is published on December 14, 2020 on the Town of Brookfield website, and was going to take place remotely via Zoom conferencing. And that is for proposed regulation change number Z-20-119, proposed change to special districts permitted uses, residential apartment or condominium dwelling units, subsection 5.D.2. This application was formally received by the Commission on December 10, 2020. Public hearing is only one aspect of the approval process, and is for the purposes of accepting factual information and data bearing on this application to allow expression of opinion by interested parties. Subsequent to this hearing, the Commission has 65 days in which to render a decision on this proposal. The final decision may be informed, approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or denied. After reading into record the correspondence received by the Commission relative to this application, we'll ask the applicant to present the application in detail. Presentation will be limited to 45 minutes. The chair will then entertain questions of clarification concerning the applicant's presentation. We hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed. Comments must be limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public will have one opportunity to speak during the segment of the hearing, may also submit their concerns in writing during the public hearing. During this segment, the commissioners may ask additional questions. The bylaws of the commission allow only for the presentation of similar positions in succession and preclude the intermixture of comments pro or con. All questions and comments must be directed to the chair. As you're recognized, please state your name and address so your comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the commission is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application. In view of the time constraints placed upon us, we ask you to indulge not reiterating comments previously presented. After the public comments are received, the applicant will have the opportunity to comment. The time will be limited to 10 minutes. Are there any questions? Mary, can you read the correspondence on this?
Sure thing. We have a letter dated November 11th, 2020 to Eric Cook, Esquire, Chairman, Brookfield Zoning Commission, Brookfield Municipal Center, 100 Pocono Road, Brookfield, Connecticut, 06804, regarding Brookfield Village LLC petition to amend Article 5, Section D.2 of Brookfield zoning regulations. Dear Chairman Cook, I'm enclosing herewith a proposed zoning amendment dealing with the residential use of the first floor of properties located in the town center district. As you may recall, the commission has had a number of informal discussions with the petitioner, and I believe this amendment adopts a lot of the thoughts and comments by the commission during these discussions. It mimics the zoning commission's language in the special conditions/stipulations given to the Renaissance a number of years ago, with a similar issue concerning commercial tenants was before the commission. I will appreciate it if you can schedule the matter for a public hearing at your earliest convenience. With my usual regards, yours truly, Neil R. Marcus. Copy Alan Rothman. P.S. My client will be forwarding the appropriate filing fees under separate cover. It goes on to have the application all filled out, where it says it proposed the current section number of the regulation is Article 5, Section D.2. The current text reads, and that's attached, I'll see that in a minute. The proposed section number is to be proposed is Article 5, Section D.2. The proposed text, again, that will be attached. It's signed. And then it shows Article 5, Special Districts, D, Part 2, residential apartment or condominium dwelling units. And it starts out with the part we already have in there. Residential apartment or condominium dwelling units may be permitted on floors other than the first floor of a mixed-use structure. And the proposed new part would be, except when the structure is located more than 300 feet from Federal Road, such dwelling units may occupy the first floor. When a mixed-use structure is on a parcel located on a road other than Federal Road, the first floor should contain a minimum of 40% commercial with the balance residential. If the commission determines that the space designated as commercial cannot be sold or rented for such use within 18 months of the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the commission may redesignate said space for additional residential use. If requested by the property owner upon a demonstration by such property owner that despite a good faith marketing plan, all or a portion of proposed commercial space cannot be sold or rented for such use, then it switches back to what's currently there. Each such dwelling unit shall not contain more than 2 bedrooms. We have dated December 7th, 2020 to the Zoning Commission from Christine Murphy on behalf of the Planning Commission regarding zone regulation change for application Z-20-119. Please be advised that the Planning Commission at their December 3rd, 2020 regular meeting made the following statement taken from their minutes. The commission agreed to allow the applicant and his attorney to provide details. Present was applicant A. Rothman and attorney N. Marcus of Cohen and Wolf. A motion was made by L. Taylor to send a memo to the Zoning Commission stating that the Planning Commission looks favorably on this proposed zone change, Z-20-119, and Buteau seconded the motion, which carried unanimously. Thank you. And we have, this is not dated, I believe it's an email to Eric and members of the commission. I reviewed the application for a text change concerning section 5.1.d.2 of the zoning regulations. I had a problem with the way Brookfield Village worded what they desire. The BV version was fragmented grammatically. I rewrote their proposal to make it more clear. At least that was the goal. In suggesting a language change, I am not making any recommendation as to whether substantively the Brookfield Village proposal is a good one. In the alternative version that I prepared, which is attached, I added the word only in the very first line to make that clear and also to allow a better transition into the 2 exceptions. I also added a way of measuring the 300 feet. I've been involved in cases where the way of measuring made a huge difference. For instance, in all likelihood, the commission does not want the measurement to be as the crow flies to the corner of the building. Therefore, as written in my alternate version, the measurement would be done along the road to a point perpendicular to the nearest building corner. I also added the language concerning applying for a modification to the special permit for clarity. Lastly, I made it clear that granting such a modified special permit is solely within the discretion of the Zoning Commission. Regards, Tom Beecher at Collins Hannafin. And I don't think I have his, the wording that he put for that, where he said that he did that separately in an attachment. Does anybody else have that?
No.
I do.
All right.
Yeah, I can read that.
Kurt wanted to read a little bit. You're muted, Kurt.
Muted, Kurt.
There we are. All right, so his new proposed language is as follows. Residential apartment or condominium dwelling units may be permitted only on floors other than the first floor of a mixed-use building, except A, when the structure is located more than 300 linear feet from the federal road as measured along the road, such dwellings may occupy the first floor. And B, when a mixed-use structure is on a parcel located with a street address on a road other than federal road, the first floor shall contain a minimum of 40% commercial with the balance residential. If requested by the property owner pursuant to an application for a modified special permit and upon demonstration that such property owner that, despite a good faith marketing plan, all or a portion of the space designated as commercial could not be sold or rented for such use during the first 18 months after the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the commission may redesignate all or a portion of that space for additional residential use. And then back to the original, each such dwelling unit shall not contain more than 2 bedrooms. So I have to agree that's a lot more clear than the other one as far as grammatically and logically. It's easy to understand. But it makes no change to the effect that Attorney Marcus is trying to get.
Okay. Is the applicant ready to present?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, Neil Marcus, Cohen Wolf VC 158 Deer Hill Avenue on behalf of Brookfield Village. As you read in my letter to the chairman submitting this application, this is the culmination of a fair amount of time spent discussing the issues that have led to the proposed zoning amendment with the commission, and then, of course, the appearance before the planning commission. We started to meet with you sometime last September and had a couple of meetings in October, and we discussed the problems that we were having in the economy that we're in, getting financing that allow the construction of buildings that will require commercial uses on the first floor, where the lenders feel, and we have reason to believe that they're not alone, that the demand for commercial space is a problem in the economy that we're in. And of course, in the age of COVID-19, where everybody seems to be shopping online, it doesn't get any better. But be that as it may, when we were before you, we discussed various approaches, and there were 2 things that came out. When a building is so far off of Federal Road, and we use the 300 feet as the standard, that building really does not lend itself to a commercial. And that building we talked about, and we showed you our site plan, would not require or should not require residences on the first floor. So that is, of course, exception A, when the structure is located more than 300 feet from Federal Road. Now, interestingly, I have no objection to Tom Beecher's measuring 300 linear feet as measured along the road. But the building that we're talking about is tough to measure that way because it's way back in the parking lot. So I'm not sure how Tom would measure it. I agree he's trying to add clarity, but I guess the way he would measure it is you would go across Federal Road and then down Station Road. And if the building is that far back, it would meet 300 feet. My concept is you would go to Federal Road. You would do it as the crow flies. You would take a line and you'd say that building is 300 feet back from Federal Road. I can do it either way. I don't want to dispute with Tom because I agree with what Kurt said earlier. either approach doesn't change the intention or ultimately the meaning. I'm just not sure where Tom thinks he's added clarity. I'm not sure he has, but I could, again, either way, I could figure out how to measure it. So I'm not going to mince words with him, and I would say that the applicant would accept his version. I do have a problem, though, a little bit with his structure. Again, not feeling sensitive about clarity that I didn't provide, but honestly speaking, when you have exception A and exception B, as he's proposed, the word in between should be or, not and. It just reads better. It's either A or B. He says it's exception A and exception B. So I just think as a structural, I would strike the word and just substitute in if it's A or B, because that's really what we're talking about. It's either A or B. So I think that for clarity, I might make that slight editorial change. Other than that, the rest of his language is exactly what we had talked about in our informals before the commission, that if after a reasonable period of time, we can, after a good faith effort, we can show to the commission that there's no way that the 40% commercial can ever be leased on a building that really isn't on Federal Road, but is on the side road here, Station Road, that we could apply to modify the special permit. We have to demonstrate our efforts to your satisfaction, and then you would have the discretion to allow that space to be converted. And that, as I indicated in my cover letter to Eric, comes from what Fran Lally reminded me of, and that is, we did that actually when I was the town council at 77, it's 777 Federal Road for the Renaissance, where we came up with flex space to address a real problem of not being able to move forward with the construction of the building because of the conditions in the commercial market. So again, my position has been, and it still remains, that any sane landlord, including Alan, who's on the call, would prefer to have commercial space. Commercial tenants tend to be a little less demanding than residential tenants, and a good commercial tenant will usually pay a higher rent per square foot. However, having said that, that's every reason why Alan will try to pursue renting the space first, the flex space, as commercial. But I am perfectly aware that if we were going to try that today in the market that we're in, it might be futile. So I would like that. I'd like to have a regulation in place that allows us to move forward with construction of these buildings with financing that'll be made available by lenders who don't feel that the first floor is going to be left vacant for too long, forever. So that's where we are, and we've discussed this, and quite honestly, the feedback we got from the commission has been very helpful in getting to where we are now. We had a similar discussion in front of the Planning Commission in November, and again, we all came to the same conclusion at that meeting, that this just makes sense, because it would be really a shame at this point to put the project on hold until the commercial market comes back and allows it to go forward. Hopefully, in the best of all worlds, the project will move forward. There will be some improvement in the commercial market, and maybe we don't have to come back with the flex space. But we've got to convince our lenders that there's an option, and this is the option. So plain and simple, I know that I could probably tell the response from some of you that have expressed it during the informal meetings, and that is, reluctantly, I don't think we have a lot of choice. And this is not something that is being dictated by the preference of the applicant. It is really a recognition of the realities of the current market. And when I say the current market, the projections are not great over the next few years. Now, the flip side to that is that I'm thinking of what Greg was saying earlier in the meeting. I came in at the very end of the Tony Lucero presentation, and I heard a couple of Greg's comments. And, you know, there is a dynamic going forward in the town center district that we don't want to lose. And this is the opportunity for us to contribute to keeping that moving forward. So I think it's in line with all of the efforts that the town has put in up to this point, and it gives us an opportunity to continue on the project. So having said that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or to ask Alan if he wants to just answer questions or make any further comments.
Good. Well, first off, Neil, I appreciate the last 4 to 5 months of you coming forward and mediating this really on behalf of your client and also the town. I think this was discussed very fully and very honestly. So my one question to you is how it's written with, even with the Brookfield attorneys changes, is this going to help you with your financing?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
There's no question that this is, and again, Alan will correct me if I'm wrong. This is what we can do to assure a lender that space is not going to be so designated that it'll never be occupied.
That's right. So I'll answer that one.
Go ahead.
So
Talk to the
there's
lender.
enough there that the banks will know that it won't be empty forever. So yes, this helps a lot.
Okay, because I want to make sure that, you know, the spirit of mediation, we don't come to an agreement that doesn't even help you.
We've had the discussion. I have had this direct discussion with the bank, the same bank that is financing the buildings in front that are under construction right now. And they said that would be enough to make it plausible, make it doable to finance.
Again, Kurt, Mary, Leslie, Frank, I mean, I know we talked about this at length. Do you guys have any questions for them?
No, yeah, I agree with the changing the and to an or too. You know, that seems, with the and, that means it's both are required. The or means here's the two situations, you know, they're not linked to, they shouldn't be linked to each other.
Fair
So
point.
just a typo sort of.
Fair point.
Okay, Leslie.
This is more like a question suggestion. Over the holidays, I happened to go to the Sweet Space in Newtown. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. I liked how you worded a flexible space. It's one of those like a retail facility that is like rented out by salon, or hairstylists and tattoo artists, etc. So they have like a little room with inside a retail space. In the front is like a little smoothie bar, and then as you walk down the hallway, there's all these little doors. The rooms are small, enough for one hairstylist. It's really cute, and I think it's an opportunity to have those kinds of small businesses, small business owners who are looking for a spot like that. I personally, I went to get my hair done for the first time since March, and I liked that I was able to go to a little spot. I wasn't in a salon full of people. It was personal. She could close the door. It was just the two of us. So just a suggestion or question as if you've considered an option like that for the space below.
We hadn't, but we will.
Okay.
So that's something we can look into.
And what that kind of tells you, Neil, as you well aware of, when you come back and you couldn't rent it out 1.5 years, Leslie's going to ask you, did you consider this?
Oh, I'm hoping I won't have to come.
I didn't ask Leslie whether she was at the tattoo artist or the hairdresser.
Yeah. neither one of those. I work from home, so I won't need a space, but I just think it's a great opportunity. As a small business owner, if I needed a space like that, I think it would be a great opportunity for someone, so.
And people are gonna have to think creatively.
I'm familiar with that space, not personally, but my wife has been there. And you're right, that's a nice concept. If we can get some interest in it, that's a good concept.
George, I'll get to you once we open this up. We're still in the commissioners talking. So as soon as we open it up, unless you're on behalf of the applicant.
This is George Walker, and
Are you representing the applicant though? Otherwise, we'll get to you.
yes, I'm part of the marketing team with the applicant there. Just George Walker with Advantage Commercial Realty, and I do the marketing. And just to address Leslie's comment there, which is an excellent one about shared space and that sort of thing. And we did have a recent opportunity that never materialized, but something very similar to that, Leslie, which was a couple of personal services, not tattoo parlor or anything like that, but a couple of personal services type tenants were going to share one space, and we came close, but it just never did materialize. But those are good consideration. Those are the types of tenants. And if we have the opportunity at future spaces, that's certainly what we do.
Anything else from any of the commissioners? Okay. Does the audience have any questions or clarification? Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody who wants to speak in opposition to this application? Allison, I imagine nobody flagged, raised their hand, or did whatever that computer stuff they're supposed to do.
No, no one.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's closed. And just like the previous applicant, we might circle back around and talk about this tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I took your advice tonight.
Thank you, Neil. I don't recognize you without the bow tie. You look great. All right, so we are on to,
Eric, can I make a comment, please?
unfortunately, Greg, we closed it. You can make
Yeah.
a general comment, I guess.
I'm sorry, I was on mute and I had my screen off, but just in general, I'm in support of this. I know I'm late. I apologize. I was on mute and I missed my button, but I'm in support of it. I apologize for missing your opening comment and deadline, so I apologize.
Okay, now that we did that, is there anybody there that wants to speak in opposition since I allowed that after? Anybody, Allison?
Nobody.
Going once, going twice, sold. All right, so we're on to now old business, which is 6A. And all right, so for 6A, if everybody recalls, the wrong Zoom ID was put out in the notice. So I want to make a motion to reconsider of closing the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to reconsider that, and we had approved it too, so does that undo the approval, or?
We have to do them both.
Okay,
So we have to make the motion to reopen, or I'm sorry, reconsider. So what did you make the motion for, Kurt?
to reconsider 730 Federal Road, application Z-20-112 to due to a Zoom address error.
I'm sorry, is the motion to reconsider the application or reconsider closing the application?
Reconsider the motion to close.
Okay.
Which would rewind us back to that point. Yeah, okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now, I would like to make a motion to reconsider the motion to approve the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. I would like to make a motion to consider that, or to extend this out to our next meeting of January 28th for the ability for anybody that just received notice or will get notice to make any comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're gonna hear this on January 28th. And since the application was presented on the last time when the motion wasn't there, I'd like the applicant just to go over the application briefly again to give anybody to answer or ask any questions of clarification or allow them to speak against or in favor. All right. Did the applicant have any questions concerning that?
Paul Scales at 32 Tory Lane. No, Fran went over it with me on the phone. We're all set. We'll try to get out the right address this time.
All right, thank you, Paul. And we'll see you on the
Okay.
28th.
Okay.
All right, so we are now on to, well, the outdoor dining was continued to February. We did that last time, so we can go to 7A, which is application Z-20-126, 500 Federal Road. Do we have the applicant here for that?
I don't see
Allison,
anyone.
you don't see anyone?
Mm-mm.
All right, well, I'm not prepared to go forward with this application without someone talking about the application, so. And also on our agenda was the nomination of officers for the 2021 calendar year. I would suggest that we do that next meeting, and hopefully we have the other two members there. Does the rest of the commission agree?
Yes.
All right. Is the commission okay to go back around to discuss the public hearings that we closed tonight?
Indeed.
Excuse me,
Okay.
just double checking. Do we need motions to continue for these new business items, or are we just,
Yeah,
Well, the applicant didn't even show up for the one.
so we're
So-
just gonna carry it over to the next agenda?
It's just gonna get carried over. Yeah, they're not even
Okay.
here.
Thank
And
you.
then the other one will just get carried over because we're not gonna discuss this late.
Okay, thanks.
So we're gonna go on to back to application Z-20-115, the grocery store. So I guess we heard from the applicant, we heard from Greg, which is always great to hear where the town really stands in forward of these applications. It's it's a very interesting location for a grocery store. I'm actually glad to see one, being living in Brookfield for now. I actually don't want to date myself, but 43 years. To see something go in over there in a grocery store is pretty good, especially with all the apartments and buildings that are going in there. So especially with what you said, I want to make sure that which we never had to worry about 2 years ago, with the pedestrians being protected on all the crosswalks and everything, because I imagine from our buildings, we're going to start seeing a lot of walking just from that building to the grocery store. So I'm very appreciative of that. I think it's a great addition to the town center. And I appreciate the applicant working with the town to making sure that the look of it and the appearance is staying with what the town, especially Greg and his team, has been working so hard on trying to put into Brookfield. With that, I had all my questions answered during the application. Who else would like to speak?
I can talk. I'm glad that they have some thought to, charging, EV charging, because we have this green corridor and EV corridor coming through. I look at the lighting plan, they do have some nice lighting, for the regular lighting, I'm not talking streetscape, but for the rest of the site plan, nice, very low key, lighting units. They hard to see, but do some nice lighting, not glary or anything like that. So what was the other thing? Yeah, and I like the elevations. It looks good. And if you looked at the planting plan, landscaping plan, it's very extensive. They have a lot of planting in there. And I think that's mostly driven by wetlands, but it looks like they're going to do a good job there.
The one thing I didn't ask the applicant, which I can't now because I closed it, but did anyone notice where the entrances to the apartments will be?
The north.
On the north side.
Yeah,
The north side, okay.
yeah, he showed it.
Yeah.
It was a little
Yeah,
small two-door on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so, because what we discussed about, having parking made for them, so which would be smart, because I don't want, I would like the people that are going shopping to work as short as distance possible to inside the store.
Yeah, and you know what, with that north entrance, it pushes if I was going to live there, I'd park on the north end where all those spots are away from the main entrance to the stores and everything.
Yeah.
And then I also like the fact that they have the extra parking just for the Still River Greenway that's sitting up there at the very north, that little small parking lot. Because that red building, people still park there, and for the Still River Greenway. And to have them put in, it looks like 10 or so spots is just fantastic.
Yeah, you can see the ones by the Brookfield Police Department, they fill up very quickly.
Yeah, it's a really nice use of a difficult parcel. That's a tough, strange parcel of land with a lot of wetlands. And I think it'll really benefit the people who are living up there now.
Yeah, I like the way they designed it. It's really cute. And, I wasn't concerned about the traffic because don't we want to bring traffic back to Brookfield? So I think, with the downtown we're focusing on, I think this is going to be great to get people to come here to go grocery shopping, shop downtown.
I agree with you 100%, Leslie. That's the type of traffic we want, not the one that's flying by to go to the Milford, but the one that actually stays for our new commercial space that I know they're going to be able to easily rent out.
That's
all
right.
of them within a year and a half, no problem. Yeah.
When they talked,
Might be flex space, who knows?
when the applicant talked about the Still River Greenway, the pathway, and the pedestrians, did I hear that no lights were going to be considered, not traffic lights, I mean pedestrian lights, to make sure pedestrians on the walkway realize traffic could be turning into there? It was just, I heard something about paper. I wasn't sure what that meant. Paper to indicate on the.
With the streetscape, they have these flashing lights, like the crosswalk further up on Federal Road. You see that one with the flash? Someone can push the button. That as well down there. As far as the crossing of the Still River Greenway, different materials. So it's obvious, you're going over, there's a crosswalk in front of you and you just can't start driving through. And the stop bars or stop lines will be set back before the Still River Greenway.
Frank, are you asking with inside their own parking lot?
No, on the walkway itself, Eric. If I'm walking or running on the Greenway, for instance, how am I going to know very, very effectively that there's a car turning into the driveway? That's my concern. I mean, if somebody's jogging there with headphones in, not paying attention, is there any flashing light on the walkway to say traffic potentially turning into the driveway? That's what I'm concerned about. I see a lot of runners on there. I see a lot of people with dogs walking on there.
I think it's more signage on the Still River Greenway to warn you're coming up to an active driveway, rather than, with light. The lights would be across Federal Road, when people cross to get over.
No, I understand. I just think that, I don't know. I don't know whether it's an accident waiting to happen, but with a lot of people on the Greenway not realizing that it's a Greenway, not a typical sidewalk. We're now changing the paradigm to making the portions where it crosses where the driveways cross the greenway, more of a sidewalk than a walking trail. If you
Well,
see that
different
difference.
materials and different colors would be a good visual cue.
Do you think that's enough?
Well, I actually think the huge building that's just coming out is kind of big too for me. Like if I'm running on there and all of a sudden I'm coming up now to all the parking spaces on both sides of the road, plus I'm seeing this big building on the right, I'm gonna automatically expect traffic unless I'm literally just running with my face down. But then, I mean, I don't know what we can do for that. Shock them when they get there.
Yeah, I guess, and like Greg Dembowski said, the state have to weigh in on this. But yeah, when you see the smaller coffee building and then you see that, but I don't know, aside from maybe having a crosswalk there with a sign that the person's got to push, I don't know how technically you could know someone's about to turn in unless they're disallowed from right on red or something like that with
Right.
a crosswalk sign.
So DOT has to approve that no matter what then, Kurt?
From what Greg just said, yes, because
Okay.
it's
Yeah, 'cause it's federal road.
right away, right?
Okay,
That's
so
the
they
state
have,
highway.
all right, they have to give their imprimatur. Okay, all right. That's it.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve application
Oh.
731 Federal Road Z-20-115 for a special permit and design reviews, construction of 2 mixed-use buildings with associated access and parking as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioners, for acting on this evening. We will move expeditiously with the DOT. And as I've been coordinating with Greg, I will continue to do that tomorrow.
And
Thank you, Tony.
this commission, Tony, this commission would like to thank you for working with the town and doing what you guys are doing to bring the Brookfield Center to be what it is like. So we appreciate it too. We
Yeah,
appreciate anybody that wants to help out the town.
in my opinion, it's super important.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Good night.
Good night.
All right, so now we're going on to 5C since 5B is put off to the next date. So we have the proposed regulation change, application Z-20-119. For me, I think and everybody that's on the Zoom call right now is, I believe, been through almost every one of those discussions that Neil was talking about for the last 6 months. So to me, this is one of those things where we went ahead and beat the dead horse. They heard us, we heard them, and this came to be pretty much something that was in the middle. We didn't necessarily get, exactly what some of us wanted, right, Leslie? Me and you, and then, but we understand the applicant and the applicant understands us. So I think that is the perfect type of agreement we can come to. Anybody else like to add anything?
Yeah, it's a good compromise because I was right where Leslie is, with not wanting to see retail spaces go, but reality is reality. And I think everybody worked together and came up with a good product in the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
So
Kurt, I would like,
I like Tom's language better, except with that one modification Mr. Attorney Marcus mentioned, changing the and to nor, because keep them, they're separate from each other. They're 2 different exceptions.
so Kurt, would you do the motion then for us?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve with modifications, application Z-20-119, which is a proposed regulation change to Article 5.D.2, Special District Permitted Uses, with the language as follows, which I'll send, by the way, I'll send you something, Allison, with the actual text. To read, residential apartment or condominium dwelling units may be permitted only on floors other than the first floor of a mixed-use structure, comma, except A, when the structure is located more than 300 linear feet from Federal Road as measured along the road, such dwelling units may occupy the first floor. Or B, when a mixed-use structure is on a parcel located with a street address on a road other than Federal Road, the first floor shall contain a minimum of 40% commercial with a balance residential. If requested by a property owner pursuant to an application for a modified special permit, and upon demonstration, such property owner that, despite a good faith marketing plan, all or a portion of the space designated as commercial cannot be sold or rented for such use during the first 18 months after the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the commission may redesignate all or a portion of that space for additional residential use. Each such dwelling unit shall not contain more than 2 bedrooms. So that would be the new language. And that's my motion.
Yeah, that was your motion. Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations to the applicant on this one, and hopefully this helps you out and you can build the things that you want to build.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commission. If Alan is still listening, I'm not sure he's still there. I'm going to tell him to follow Tony Lucera down the road and get the building permit. Let's get this thing moving, right?
Yeah, go get the financing.
And I appreciate the bow tie tonight, Neil, and I bet you'll get the financing if you wear that.
Yeah.
I remember when bankers used to wear them. Take care,
I
guys.
did too.
Good night. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nobody ever pulls it off like you, Neil. All right, so we're on to nothing, just unless somebody
No, I
has
got
anything they want to discuss.
No.
Yes, but it's not long. I'm
All
sorry.
right, so Kurt is taking Fran's position tonight.
It's this is in regards to the 5G zoning reg changes, or the whole in response to WestCog's recommendations for land use planning for wireless telecommunication tasks. And it's a long report. There's a lot of things in there, but they've done a lot of good work to get us prepared here in Western Connecticut for the rollout of 5G. And so they can give us recommendations so we're not run roughshod by the Verizons of the world. Because if we don't have something in place, they can do more things than we want them to do. And this is, in regards to location of these small cells, the view shed, which is a new definition and term. They talk about people's views, keeping antennas away from people, so the RF emissions aren't too high. So they have a lot of recommendations for a couple levels. One is what zoning regs we should change. And then they also did a analysis of who's already got some regs in place, and we do for communication towers. And then also what municipal ordinances should be in place too, because it's more than just zoning. It's right of ways and telecommunication at the town level. And what the issue is these 5G antennas are smaller than your typical cell phone tower that's 100, 200 feet in the air. These things are anywhere from 20 to 30 feet in the air. And they're lower power, but there's more of them because they run at a higher frequency to get a higher data rate. They need to put them like every 500 feet, and they're small. They're about maybe 2 feet, 1.5 feet tall, and round like this. Some of them. If you want to see what one looks like, go to Fairfield Hills Complex, and right there at the entrance, if you look around at the poles, you'll see one there. It must be a test unit or something. Brookfield Planning Commission also discussed this, and I looked it over. Don't have any ideas about changing it yet because I don't think it's time for us to do it. We'd be putting the horse ahead of the cart. I mean, the cart ahead of the horse. So what I do agree with is the Planning Commission and the WestCog, and recommend that the town of Brookfield should adopt a municipal ordinance and right-of-way ordinance based on the models they provide in this report, which is nice. You just fill in your town name and then tweak it a little. I also recommend that us as a zoning commission, based on how the municipal higher ups adopt changes to our own regulations, be consistent with the new ordinances to prevent any conflicts and redundancies. Because if we both try to control the same thing, then we have to try to keep them in sync. So we have to make sure that we report up to that ordinance, but don't try to do the same thing, because it'll get out of sync, and then the lawyers will be involved to say which one's in charge and stuff. So more specifically, but not to the point of making regulations, I think the following section should be reviewed for amended or either amended for either additions or deletions. For example, in definitions, adding definitions for these little small cell installations. View shed, that's a new definition we should get. 4.2 as a table of permitted uses, like where some of these installations should be in residential TDC and on municipal buildings. And 5.3, the town center district, architectural guidelines. We don't want these things to be ugly. And if they're going to be put down there somewhere, we will have some control over the look and feel of them, and on municipal buildings. And then finally, we have to look at our own section 7.2. We have a telecommunication tower antenna regs, and we want to make sure those are consistent with whatever municipal puts in place if they decide to do that. And then finally, in 8.0, creating zoning permits for towers and these small cell installations. So that's what I recommend. And I guess what I recommend is sending a letter from the zoning commission to, I guess, Steve Dunn, the Board of Selectmen, to consider creating a municipal ordinance based on the models in that report from Westcog.
I too reviewed the Westcog report. I want to bring to everybody's attention that in September of 2018, the FCC passed their small cell order, which really took away a lot of the not self-governance, but local self-determination. Our hands are tied largely now because of that small cell order. 2 years later, in September of 2020, City of Portland lost in City of Portland versus FCC. They challenged most of what was in that order, and they lost. Each of those challenges were rebuffed by the 9th District. The only thing that did pass, that carried through, was the determination by the panel that the aesthetic definition of the FCC was arbitrary. So what does that mean? Everything that Kurt said, I agree with. However, one of the things is we need to establish design guidelines as per Westcog and other research I've done much sooner than later. So in any letter we send to Dunn or anybody else, design guidelines within the town center district and without. We need to do that much sooner than later, because if a Verizon or an AT&T or a T-Mobile comes and says, that's what you're going to do. By the way, do you have any guidelines in terms of aesthetics? And we say no. We just can't then in a hurry up and throw something at them, because they can come back to us legally and say, you didn't have anything in place. Second, they established a shot clock. And this ties back to any municipal ordinance. If they cite a cell, okay, this SWF, small wireless facility, on an existing tower or building, as soon as the permit is forwarded by the operator, of Verizon, for example, shot clock starts at 60 days. If it's a new construction, a new tower, the shot clock is 90 days. There's no exception, and there's no getting out of it. So we have to be very careful about that from here on in. Lastly, in that order, they actually defined the dimensions of an SWF, a small wireless facility. So even though, Kurt, you mentioned the small cell, like the pizza box looking type of cells, in there though, are you muted? You're muted, okay. The definition in the order is that the antenna associated with deployment can be no more than 3 cubic feet in volume. That's just the antenna. But all other wireless equipment associated with the cell is no more than 28 cubic feet in volume. So that's how big it could be on a pole. And the pole can't be any greater than 50 feet. So we have to be understanding that they could come in here with small cell facilities that big. And we can't do anything about it. There's no getting around it. As far as the radiation, the order also addressed that. And as long as the operator adheres to the FCC current guidelines, we have no recourse to say, wait a minute, let's do we can ask for a review, but as long as they meet the guidelines, the town can't say on any grounds, there's too much radiation, power emission, et cetera. So small towns in West Cog's domain are largely constrained now what they can do. You can't say to an operator, no, you can't build. What we can do is establish distances between cells and make those recommendations. We can't tell them you can't build there. We have to work with them. And municipality after municipality in the United States has now found this as a result of the 2018 order. Questions from anybody?
Yeah,
Mr.
Frank,
Chair?
do you want to put together a letter?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, you seem like you did a lot of research. I read it and I reviewed it, and it was, I tell you, I want to commend you. It was pretty overwhelming reading to get through. There was a lot of information that was sent through. So if you seem to be well up on it, if you could put together something from this commission, then it'd be greatly approved. And it sounds like from what you're saying is we don't have a lot of control, but on those things we do have control over, we should take it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I'm not, Kurt, weigh in here. What I'm not certain of is, and let's use Brookfield Village as an example. If a Verizon wants to put a small cell facility on top of, let's say, building 2 of Brookfield Village.
Right.
What I'm not certain is, would they approach Allen as the owner?
Yes.
Or would they approach the town first to go to Allen?
Well, you know, that's one of the recommendation. The recommendation is to have a municipal level guy and an ordinance. So you'd have someone like a Greg Dombowski in charge of that sort of thing, an ombudsman, and that would be.
Oh, I see Greg's raising his finger, his hand, like he wants to be that guy. So we'll keep that in mind.
Greg, you're on mute. Greg, you're on mute.
No, he's good.
No, he
He's
doesn't want
waving. He's saying, I want to do it. I want to do it. That's what I get from that.
Yeah. So that's for speed. You know, for our zoning stuff can go very slow, but you got someone on the top from the town. There's so many different aspects, including zoning, they have to accommodate. But since that's on private property, I don't know how much the town would get involved, except if we had, and we do have, regulations on desired or preferred places. So right now, one of the preferred places is on the side of a building, but how many do we want there? You could have a lot and they look like warts on the side of the building. So that's one of the things we have to control. If it's on the telephone poles, that's a right-of-way municipal level thing and not, but then.
And I think what we're more concerned at from our perspective is going back to the 1960s and the 70s where we had these horrible antennas on top of houses.
Yeah.
And where all the builders in certain areas got together and said, hey, listen, for the next 25 years, nobody can put antennas or clothing lines and everything else. So when I read all of that type of stuff, what I visualized is all these antennas coming back, being on people's houses and looking just horrible. And that was my concern.
What you would probably see is it down the main corridors, because it doesn't make any sense for them to try to put it down like my road. So you see it go through the middle of town, which for us is we have to be mindful of, because we have a nice streetscape and we don't want anything ugly put on top of the poles, because that's where these would go. Or you could put it on top of your light poles too, and if they can make it look good. So if we can control that, and we can control through municipal ordinance to tell them to push it underground. So put all your equipment underground. We don't want to see
It
it.
can't
up.
do that. It can't go
We-
underground.
We can have design standards that do that, and that's
It can't
what
go,
they,
it can't go underground.
Well,
It's
a lot of the
wireless.
equipment can go underground, only that top part has
yeah,
to
that's
go
what
on
I'm
top
talking
that I
about.
read.
About the 28 square feet, cubic feet of equipment.
That has to be upstairs. That has to be on the pole.
No,
No,
that's,
I didn't, that's not how I looked at it. I thought the 28 cube could be hidden, but
yes.
the antenna part is the
Gotta be
part that has to be out.
Yeah, in fact, it's got to be at least 20 feet away, 20 feet up for emissions. You know, you can't have it that close to people.
I think we're getting lost on what defines the wireless portions of it. The equipment that accomplishes the backhaul through fiber back to the network backhauling substation, that can be underground.
No, even the support equipment. That's what the municipal ordinance goes. The box you can put underground and then have the feed, the
Going up. That's how I read it too.
antenna on the top.
And I looked at it.
Yeah.
So Frank, can
Okay.
you look at that a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So that's what the municipal ordinance controls right away. You know, the right of way along Federal Road, but then the state gets involved too. But if we put an ordinance in place and say, we don't want to see that box, yeah, the antenna we got to deal with, we'd like it to look like this to mix in aesthetically with our downtown, or if it's going to be on the side of a building. That's what we have control over. And so we have some stuff, and some of it is, you know, open space, worried about open space. Do you want to see things in the open space? I don't think anybody needs 5G when they're walking at Happy Landings or anything, but considerations, you have to consider that it could happen. So, you know, try to shut it down beforehand.
There
But
are
I'm not-
definitely, there's a different set of circumstances to consider for open spaces, and the order takes that into consideration.
Yeah.
But
Is there, as far as aesthetics, especially in the TCD, Eric, who establishes the design guidelines for the TCD these
We
days?
do. We do. We have it. It's appendix 2 in our regs.
But I mean, from scratch, the zoning is responsible for it? Zoning commission is responsible for the
well,
aesthetics?
we've gotten so much input from everybody else, like planning and the EDC and everything else. But how about this? We're the overseers.
Mhm.
So we get everybody's input, and you know, we don't develop it from scratch. We kind of just go, okay, we're going to be the police enforcement of this, but we get everybody else's input to develop that, because there's no way that look at us, there's 5 of us, that we can figure out what is going to be the best for there. That's why we have other commissions, but we
Right.
are the policing enforcement part of that, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Kurt, I see, I'm going to disagree with you on one part. I'm afraid still of not just the downtown corridor. I'm afraid of all the houses of wanting to get that, and these cell towers, they want to get rid of the underlying or the cables up top and everything else. They want that mesh network to be spread all across the residence, because they want to give you your wireless, your cable now with 5G. So you're not going to Verizon, or not Verizon, Frontier or anybody else. So I'm actually afraid. I think you're right. The first step is to light up the highways and everybody else, but I think the next one is just right behind there. All the residences, let me battle and take away cable from you and everything else. And we can do it all through 5G, because 5G is going to be that fast, that quick, especially if they put a mesh up.
And that's what the view shed portion of it is. Can't ruin your view with a bunch of these ugly antennas. So that part we have to create a regulation on to protect our aesthetic view in town.
Now,
And
did any of you say what was the radius of coverage typically?
every
thought Frank
500
did.
feet they talked about.
500?
That's a great question, Mary, because right now, the biggest auction going on in the FCC is taking place right now in terms of spectrum allocation. 280 megahertz of spectrum has been auctioned off starting in December. It's ending right now. It's what's called the C-band. That's the mid-band. So it's not going to be the millimeter wave, high energy 5G. It's going to be the sweet spot. And once that starts coming in, then 5G is going to take off. Everybody's going to have it. What that means is that I don't think every street, like Deer Run Road, my street, or every street will have a tower necessarily. or a cell, excuse me, an SWF. But I think, to answer your question, I believe the mid-band range will be about 2 kilometers. Okay, as opposed to millimeter wave, so-called, but like Verizon's ultra wideband. Doesn't go any more than 300 meters. Okay, and then you would need a complete mesh, Eric, for that type.
Right.
But that's not what, Verizon can't do that here. It's got, that type of installation is only meant for dense urban environments.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, Frank, but then there's another thing that's been going on Capitol Hill for the last year due to COVID, and that is about making cable, internet networks and all that type of stuff as into a utility. Because once it becomes a utility and it's designated as a utility, those companies have to now put it everywhere and figure it out. And, you know, it's like when you think about it, you're like, you know what, why isn't cable a utility now that people are at home and they need to have this access? But with, what's the Spider-Man thing? With great power comes great something. I mean, it's just, right, responsibility. And you know what, this responsibility is going to fall on us. You can see it coming. And if they make a utility, which I absolutely think they're going to make a utility, that means it needs to be provided everywhere that people live. And they need to be working towards that. So that's what we have to figure out. So the view shed and everything else is in line.
Yeah, it's good to be proactive as much as could still be possible.
Yeah, and that's why I applaud Westcog for doing this. You know, they got ahead and they're trying to get ahead of it. And they did a lot of research for that report. And
yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just a tip.
Yeah, and the best part is having those model ordinances. So they took all these different parts from across the country and said, all right, with our laws here in Connecticut, here's what we suggest. And for our Western Connecticut and specifically. So it's a good starting point.
All right, anything else? Leslie, I know you want to do this.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, wait, Greg's got a question.
Yes, Greg.
Can I just make a comment before you adjourn, if it's okay with you, Commissioner Kirk?
Sure. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, just very quickly, today I was assigned the task of submitting our federal application for EV infrastructure for municipal vehicles and infrastructure for a regional grant. That grant application is due January 29th. And I am working with 10 other towns in northern Fairfield County, where we're going to be asking for federal funding, 80% match for EV vehicles for municipal use and charging stations across municipal facilities. So stay tuned. I just wanted to give you that heads up.
All right, thanks, Greg. And obviously, you know, you can come to us anytime you need our help with the EV, especially Kurt. He's big on it too.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Leslie, do it again.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.